Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Aloha and welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where we ask why employee appreciation usually translates to a pizza. And of course, ask the existential question, does pineapple really belong on the pizza of appreciation? Answer is clearly no. Maybe it does for you. Let me know. Well, I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale from 7 figures, which is good, to 8 and 9 figures, which is outstanding. Together, we supercharge revenue growth, create premium valuation, and craft a business that you're proud of and a life of impact and freedom that you love. Moved over to the Big Island. Leading up to our 100th episode, I spent a week with the smartest founders and business leaders that I know and hopped over here for a little R&R afterwards. It's absolutely beautiful here. Met some amazing people, good diving, and I got to swim through a lava tube yesterday, which looks kind of like a big, long cave. There's one also kind of like oboe macaroni. And got to play with some sharks. So pretty fun. And, all appendages intact. The last 2 Thursdays were about branding. And there was a big brand shakeup last week that I'm sure you heard about. And yes, it is X. If you've been living in a lava tube, and honestly, I kind of have been, maybe you haven't heard about it, but the app formerly known as Twitter is now X. I will say at least we can pronounce that instead of having to call it the app formerly known as Twitter. RIP Prince. So X, a number of you have messaged me and, hey, what do you think? And you've raised some really interesting questions. And I think it's a fascinating move for sure. And so we'll start out with a question of, what do you think? And Matt, Casey, Dylan, Chris K, Sylvan, thank you for your messages. What do I think? Well, Elon Musk never does anything without a plan. And so this is something that he's had in mind since well before the acquisition, and he talked about it publicly. But if you remember the last time X.com was launched, it wasn't the permanent name. The name of that product eventually changed to PayPal. Yep, not too shabby, right? Also keep in mind, this is a guy who built rockets and sent people into space and launched reusable booster rockets and landed them back on a moving ship at sea. Built a electric car, built a semi that could drive coast to coast autonomously with 10% battery to spare after super smart people, including Bill Gates, said it couldn't be done. And he did it. So what do I think? I wouldn't bet against X. And so whatever it's going to become, I don't know. But I think it'll be really interesting to see and watch that journey. But there is a plan in place. And he's done, I think, the impossible before. And so this would not surprise me at all if we're all really surprised and shocked and amazed at what X becomes. Brandon sent me a message because we've been talking about branding and Brandon. He said, did that destroy brand value? I don't know, maybe in the short term, but there's a bigger vision. And so I think as entrepreneurs, we don't necessarily worry about, what people think or, this or that. In the short term, we have a big vision. But what I do think is that legacy brand for him becomes a foundation that he can build on, something new on top of it. And I think that's really interesting to see what that's going to become. But Chelsea sent a message, said the media is talking about X and the transition here, and is all press good press? All right, in this case, I don't think it necessarily hurts. And Brandon asking, did it destroy brand value? Media has talked about that. But you can't buy this kind of exposure, and it keeps Twitter or X as part of the conversation. I think that's really important. You're talking about social media, you're talking about people's opinions, and this is a place that you can express those. So I think that's really interesting take in making the transition, and a lot of people are talking about it. So it's getting a lot of buzz. On a personal level, I love seeing the media know-it-alls just spin in circles over this. Most of them have never built a business and wouldn't have a clue how, but are extremely confident in their opinions of X. And, Elon's just off the rails and lost his mind. And I think what will happen is in a few months, those very same people will forget all about the things they wrote about before, said, and will likely be talking about this move is brilliant. And we had no idea what was coming. And it's a great move. Dana asked, was this a good decision or a bad decision? I don't really think about it in as far as good or bad, but win or lose, this is a decision that I guarantee will be in marketing, branding, and advertising textbooks in the future. It will be a case study. And maybe it's a colossal flop. Maybe I'm completely off base and X is a flop. Either way, what lessons can we take away from it now, not wait for it to be in the textbooks, but in watching this in real time unfold, what lessons can we learn as entrepreneurs? Jim asked, would you be this bold? And I don't know, I love bold moves, and I'm certainly not on the same scale that he is. I mean, if he loses $238 billion, he's still a billionaire. That's a pretty good cushion. I mean, you can be wrong with that kind of money. Yeah, it's not bad. But I love to see entrepreneurs at every level. You don't have to be a billionaire, but I love to see entrepreneurs make bold moves and really be driven by their convictions. I mean, committed to their vision and just swing for the fences. Yeah, I love that. And it's just 100% all in commitment. I think that's what we're seeing here with the move from Twitter to X is it's an all in commitment. This is my vision. This is what I'm doing. Don't care what anybody else thinks. Don't care what the media thinks. This is where we're going. And I think as a leader, that is a really important trait to have and something I can get behind and, root for all day long. And whether that's, somebody like him, somebody like you, really committed to your vision and pushing forward. I resist the urge to play it safe and really hope that my vision can be as big and bold and to chase that. Well, if you want a shot of boldness in your business, then don't go alone. Go with fellow SaaS founders like you and Champion Leadership Group. It is the ultimate resource for SaaS founders and C-suite executives to continue to develop themselves, scale their companies, and never walk alone. Unlock untapped revenue by leveraging time-tested SaaS growth principles, toolkits, playbooks, and frameworks designed to help you scale ARR from 7 to 8 to 9 figures. Collaborate with an elite network of SaaS visionaries, celebrate wins, and overcome defeats together. Confidently take the right next step that creates a giant leap to profitable growth, premium valuation, and freedom. Learn more at championleadership.com. Our expert guest last week was Kate DeLeo, a brand architect and #1 best-selling author who gave us an easy-to-follow framework to educate people about what you do in a way that's engaging, where they say, tell me more. And you have a conversation that converts really, really great. And our founder on Tuesday was Marina Burashkina, CEO and founder at Growth Channel AI, a founder with 2 successful exits so far. Marina combined her marketing expertise with AI technology to put you in front of your ideal clients in a way that they say, I see you everywhere. How great was she? I love all of our guests, but the last 2 amazing women, it was absolutely incredible what they're doing in the SaaS space. Really, really excited to have them. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest this week is a founder who has made some bold moves himself. Jeff Jackel is a 5-time founder across 2 decades, building innovative companies. In his current role, he is helping leaders realize and reimagine their role in the happiness of their employees and the loyalty of their clients. He is co-founder and chief strategy officer at Client Giant, a leader in tech-enabled employee and client care, helping forward-thinking companies like you automate thoughtfulness and lock in loyalty and engagement with their most valuable people. Welcome someone who is redefining employee appreciation, engagement, and surprising and delighting clients all year long, Jeff Jackel. Hey, Jeff, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be here.
Well, I love the whole concept of your business around giving. Tell me about how you came up with the idea.
Yeah, I can't take credit for it. So I founded the company with my now best friend, Jay O'Brien, and he was a real estate agent. So starting, I think, 2013, 14, he entered the world of residential real estate, and he just decided to take an entirely different approach, like an approach that was entirely around taking care of the people that he was working with at a degree that was just not commonplace for the industry. So to give you an example, whether you bought a $200,000 condo or a multi-million-dollar home, he treated clients like it was the Ritz-Carlton. So, which means he's taking care of them from the moment they start to work together and on well through after he's made his money. When most real estate agents, I think, kind of just take off, hear from him. So he did that. He set up a whole experience with his assistant at the time where, he was taking care of you on day one. And then we know when it's stressful and he would get something, stress relief for them. And he knew when you started to think about moving and all of your moving boxes and your markers and tape would just show up on, so on and so forth. And even a month after he was done working with somebody, they'd get a call from the maitre d' of a top restaurant in the area saying, you've been in your house for a month. Mr. O'Brien would love to send you and your wife, you and whomever, to dinner. What night would you like to come? So what happened was just doing this got him to be the top 30 under 30 in the country in real estate. And it got him speaking all over the world. And I met him. This is a great story. I met him because my wife and I had just gotten married. We were looking to buy a home together. We went into a loan officer's, Wells Fargo, just walked in. And she said, "Do you have an agent?" I said, "No." She goes, "I have the perfect person. He's going to be your best friend." And I said, "Well, I don't need a best friend. I just apparently need an agent."
I just need an agent, right?
So is it right? But here we are, 8 or 9 years later. He's my best friend, business partner.
Awesome.
Our wives are best friends. I was just the best man at his wedding. So anyway, I got close with him and watched this happen. He started to speak all over the country, all over the world, even on this, just like you'd call it 7-star service. It's literally taking care of people to a degree that they would never expect, right? And everybody all over the world would say, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this into effect in my business." And then, of course, they didn't, because in no business is that your main focus, right? You've got a main job to do. So, I, being a tech founder, I had a whole dev team. I've been doing this for years. I've been creating content or creating software, a lot of times around experience, bringing people together and communicating and connecting and, enriching people's relationships. And I said, "Hey, we can build software around this. We can build software that allows every real estate agent," because we were just thinking real estate at the time, "anywhere to push a button and take care of their clients at this level, but we'll actually be doing everything." In fact, I remember right before he was going on a speaking engagement in New York or something, he did a questionnaire with everybody and said, "Hey, would you do this? Would you pay for this if I was able to do this for you?" And the feedback was incredible. And so we built the whole, original platform pretty quickly. It was like most alphas, and we put it into the market. And within 6 months, we were in all 50 states in Canada. So it worked.
That's pretty amazing. And I mean, conceptually, I love it, and I've been on board and got a friend that wrote a book, John Ruhlin wrote a book called Giftology. And I 100% bought into that. And I've actually seen Jay speak. I mean, super inspirational in how to take care of clients. But it's one of those things that you want to do. And just like you said, all the greatest intentions, and you start, and then you're kind of inconsistent, and then it just kind of stops.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem that you solve.
I talk to people all the time that they basically say, "I'm not as good as I should be at taking care of the people that bring me business." And I always say, don't beat yourself up. Nobody is. I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, if they were. There's so many business owners and operators with great intentions. In fact, I believe most have great intentions to take care of their people to a degree. It's one of the hardest things to do. It's one of the hardest things to do really well. So I think a lot of people give up. The first time you realize when you're taking care of, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but now we've branched into employee happiness, which makes it even more apparent if you're missing the mark. But let's say even with clients, if you're taking care of somebody really, really well and you happen to forget this other client and they know each other, let's say it's a birthday thing. Well, I didn't hear from Jeff on my birthday. How come you heard from Jeff on his birthday? That comes, to light really quickly inside an organization if it's employees. So a lot of people sometimes have those things where like, we weren't keeping up with it. It wasn't fair because we would do this for one client or one employee, and then we'd miss somebody. And so they just give up. They say, "Hey, I'm not going to really do anything because if I can't do it well, I'm just going to kind of stay status quo."
Yeah. And that's one thing I really like about what you do is it's really about the consistency and not just clients. That you've taken that the step further, and employees, which in this marketplace is so important for not only attracting talent, but retaining them, letting employees know that they're appreciated, and just consistency. It is really easy. I mean, if Slack didn't tell me, I hope the employees aren't listening to this. If Slack didn't tell me, or Facebook didn't tell me about birthdays or anniversaries or things like that, or work anniversaries, then I don't know that I would even know.
So You bring up a really good point in terms of Facebook reminding you. I could talk about this for forever, but basically, if you look at what's happened on a macro scale in terms of, I would call it like the commoditization of every single offering, which is, I think, why what we do, I don't want to say it's easy, but why it's so impactful. And I don't know in 10 years if it will be, because I believe every business is going to have to step up and take care of people and work on the relationship more than they do now to succeed. But disassociation, or the social media culture, right, and how just transactional a lot of things can be, has actually made it easier to make an impact with something that 15 years ago would have felt normal, right? So I'm not even going to go back to 70 years ago when I had a relationship with the butcher and the butcher would give me a tab, and that was a very tight relationship, which I think is what we're going back to, because that's the hardest thing to do, because everybody can kind of sell you anything. But to your point, like social media, it's a good example. The way when we take care of people's birthdays, as an example, we offer a birthday plan on a bunch of different things. The touch that arrives at a person's home, the gift that arrives at a person's home for the birthday, comes 4 or 5 days ahead. And it's basically themed to essentially help them to celebrate their birthday. This is, we'll get all into this. At the end of the day, I'm just a data dork. So we've done a ton of testing and we know what works, and then we dial it in and we flip the knobs and the switches. But the reason that has proven successful is exactly what you said, because the norm has become Facebook will remind me. Right. So now when you wish somebody a happy birthday at 3 p.m. on their birthday, they know you probably were reminded by something on social media, or they know that you probably were reminded by something digital, right? Which you could look at that at the state of today in that way and find it sad. We see opportunity. It makes it actually a little bit easier to make an impact by just being ahead of things.
And I wish I was that 3 p.m. person. I'm usually like the 3 days later person. It shows up.
You're seeing that list that says like, birthdays you missed this week.
Yeah. I like so that. It's something that's done before. Yeah, that's really smart in being able to do that, and something that helps them celebrate. So it's not just company swag. And that's kind of been the norm. If you're sending gifts, it's or even companies that are kind of doing something similar. It's it's you're sending company swag, something with our logo on it, and T-shirts or pins or little things like that.
Yeah. So this topic, which comes up all the time with we call them members at Client Giant. They're members of our service, but you'd probably think of them as clients, especially when we're helping larger companies with employees and whatnot. This is where I tell somebody, hey, in 3 minutes, you're either going to love me more or you're going to hate me. Because
I love that.
The subject of swag comes up all the time. And our view on that, it's not to say that there isn't a time and a place to put your brand on something and give it to people inside of your organization, let's say. And maybe there's times and places to give it to folks outside of your organization. But we have a pretty hard-lined stance on this, which, yes, like you said, it's what most people do. Literally, it's stuff we all get, right? So it's just an accepted, commonplace practice inside corporate gifting, inside, marketing, advertising, etc., to give people a bunch of crap with your name on it.
Right.
And again, this is the data dork in me, right? So we know that 80-something% of those things end up in the trash, literally, right? We know that another 6 or 8% of them end up in either like the attic, or they end up in a garage. And then there's 4 or 5% of people who are actually, walking around with a mug that says whatever company on it that's not their own company. And maybe it's worth, that 90-something% of loss for a company to do that. I think internally for a company, when you create a culture and you create pride of ownership of being a part of this organization, there's a place to give people branded things inside your organization. 9 times out of 10, though, a company is doing this, and what they want, or what they tell me that they want, is to throw their brand on a tumbler or socks or a mug, and then they want to give it to clients. And I always have to say, can we get real here on what this is actually, what you're doing? Because you can do that, but don't think that it's a gift. Don't think that it's thoughtful. Don't think that it's giving them something that you took energy and effort and love to put together for them. Don't even think that it's for them. If I give you a T-shirt with my company logo slapped across the front, I'm asking you to wear it. I'm asking you to be a billboard for me. And maybe there's times when that's okay, but don't confuse the two. So what I think that we have gotten really, really good at, partially through data and partially through a very, very human approach, is helping our members get to the root of what are you trying to accomplish with this relationship? Whoever it is, it's your clients, it's your employees, what's the goal? What's success for you with this relationship? Even when somebody just said, hey, look, man, I'm just having an event. I just want to do these tumblers and send out. Well, what's the goal? What are you trying to do? Right. And usually I can help them walk down a path that says, yeah, you know what? This branded swag doesn't actually accomplish what I'm trying to do. But sometimes it does. And sometimes, we can help people with that. But it's good, I think, to help people understand what it is and what it isn't. Swag.
It's a really, really good distinction. And I think that, that was one of the things when we talked about, I hadn't thought about before is, when you give that away, I'm asking you to be my ambassador and wear that thing out into the world. And are you going to do that? Maybe.
Yeah. Jay had a talk. I forget what stage it was, but he was a talk in front of thousands of real estate folks. And he had a RE/MAX franchise. And in this talk, he literally, he says, and it's probably RE/MAX, the head people at RE/MAX are in the room. And he says, I don't care that I own a RE/MAX franchise. I don't even care if I was the CEO. I'm not taking a RE/MAX towel to the beach. I'm just not going to do it. Right. And you got to be realistic about, who's going to take this thing out? Who's going to actually do that?
Right.
What it's actually for?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's something that definitely differentiates. So if you're not doing that, if you're not doing kind of the typical swag stuff, what are some of the gifts and what is it that, clients would receive that they would perceive as thoughtful?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that leads to what the heck do we do? So
yeah,
Client Giant's an automated engagement platform, right? Not just gifting, but experiences, digital experiences. It's an automated engagement platform for clients and for employee happiness. So what that really means is surprising people on their doorstep with things that are not self-serving, that are for them on a regular basis. And the regular basis is important because so much in business, when people are gifting or creating experiences for clients or for employees, I don't want to say that it's tit for tat, but that is the natural inclination of a business owner.
Sure.
A natural inclination is I got a referral and then I sent him something. Or they signed their renewal contract and then I sent them something. Or they had a big win and I sent them something. And while I'm not telling people don't do that, if you're going to do nothing or that, it is nice to recognize those things. But it's building a transactional relationship. It's not saying I appreciate you and the role that you play in my business all year long, all the time. So the thoughtfulness comes from this literally coming from a genuine place of I'm thankful to have you as part of my business now, and whether you renew or whether you don't, whether you buy something or whether you don't. So, and the automated element, when I say we're automated, and I believe we're the only ones out there that do this at all, is with Client Giant, you place people onto a plan. You make a decision for yourself and for your business that this person is very valuable and I really appreciate them and the business appreciates them to whatever degree. So we help people take care of their clients at a really, really low investment, what we think is wildly low. And we have people that have clients that say, hey, look, this person is absolutely indispensable to my business. I'm so appreciative of them. They put a roof over my house, they feed my kids, and they pay the salaries of my employees. And the level that they take care of those people we help them is in the, off the charts, right? But it's saying that I'm committing to making this relationship not just about the fact that you're giving me business, but I'm showing you that I care all year long, all the time. You place them on a plan, and we sort of take care of the rest. And in terms of what those gifts are, like our most popular plan for clients is called Top of Mind. And it's sort of syncopated. It goes out roughly January, April, July, October. It goes out around the start of each new season, and it speaks to the season. And again, Data Dork, we do all the research, right? With, internally, externally, social psychologists, we figure out what's on the pulse of people right now. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? which was interesting going through the pandemic and then sort of coming out of the more serious stages of that. And what were people thinking? Well, cleanliness is on their mind, but you don't want to be too clinical. And, what are we going to give to people? So we do painstaking work to come up with things that are going to hit the mark. And we've gotten really, really good at hitting the mark. Those things could be in the summer. We know, especially last summer, we know people are going to do more traveling than they ever had for 10 years because they finally feel like they can get up and about. We sent people these beautiful packing cubes, right? Or a dop kit that we work with a company to create. And it, a message that connects with those things just says, hey, whether you're traveling, in the car or internationally, here's a little something that hopefully can help you this summer. Help you have a great summer. And so I always tell people the gifts are amazing because we've gotten really, really good at it and because we're doing it at such scale, but the gifts don't matter. And that sounds weird to people, but I sort of just illustrated it. It's really about the message that's connected with it and the why you're taking care of somebody. Why are you sending this to somebody? First of all, it's a surprise and delight. Just shows up at your doorstep. Somebody was thinking of you. And to give another example of what I was saying before with how industry and social media and commoditization of things has made it a challenge, but also made it easier. When we first started Client Giant, things were arriving at people's doorsteps in black padded envelopes and white padded envelopes. Well, I think pretty soon after that, or at the same time, Amazon started doing that. Right. So part of what our research said is, hey, look, this is going to cost us a lot more, but no longer are things going to show up in any kind of packaging that could make somebody see it on their front doorstep and just assume that it's Amazon. Forget that they ordered something or know they ordered something.
Happens
we
all the
want
time.
We want every single moment of the experience we create for your people to be exciting and a moment of intrigue. So when you see this on your doorstep, I want you to immediately say, whoa, what's that? What's that bright purple box? Or what's that box with the balloons on it? That's, what is that? I know it's not from Amazon, whether I ordered something or not. So there's a moment of intrigue. And then you open it up. Whoa, what is this? Who's this from? Why are they sending it to me? So every step of the way,
love that.
We're creating that whole experience. So what's inside could be those packing cubes. It could be, we did this amazing thing called the question game, which is 54 awesome questions to have at a dinner party or with your family. And we sent it in October and people were wild about it. They had the most amazing conversations with their families in Thanksgiving meals and in the holidays. We did a partnership with a company called NodPod that are these weighted blankets for your eyes, like a weighted sleep mask for your eyes.
Oh, interesting.
So cool. And we knew that people were coming out of the most stressful year. Technically, this was a year and something ago. And this was in a January touch and said, hey, start this year rejuvenated. Here's something, if you ever feel a little bit of stress, here's something to, take a few minutes out and relieve some stress, whatever. People absolutely loved it. And to give you an idea of our scale now, how cool it is, what we're able to do, a NodPod retails at, Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom, whatever. I want to say it's like $35, $36 plus tax and shipping. You couldn't get that to a client for under, $55 maybe. This was one of 4 touches in the year from our top of mind plan, which is $99 a client. The gifts are amazing. The actual items are amazing, but I can't stress enough how I would say that they're actually responsible for less than 25% of the ultimate impact of what this does when it arrives at your doorstep.
So what's the dynamic between having the idea and then you've got, you refer to yourself as the data dork and putting those two things together, taking that idea and bringing technology and then bringing that solution to market? Yeah, how important was a co-founder to each of you?
Well, 2 separate questions, right? Co-founder to each of us is Jay and I are it's like yin and yang. We do totally different things here. We think of things completely differently. He is sort of a master of that experience, of the actual, real, tangible, what's this going to look like when it hits your doorstep? How do you surprise somebody? Turning things on their head, right? He's kind of the king of realizing, I've gotten, I think, pretty good at it, but I give him credit for it, of what are these accepted practices that people do with their clients, with their employees, that have been around for forever, that it should become so commonplace, and honestly challenging them. Like, why do they do that? What's that accomplishing? Think about this and then twist it on its head. And data dork, or at least the tech side, is is kind of my role to basically say, well, how can we do that at scale? How can we make it even better? And then how can we make it progressively better? So it's all iterative. When I talk about it today, it's, let's say that's a good example. So we're selecting this gift in a summer where we know we work with social psychologists that are talking to us about this is going to be the most traveled summer because of what we've just come out of. We'll put together a whole series of gift possibilities, right? And we'll test them internally and we'll test them externally with a focus group. And we will then start having, refining those. Well, okay, let's try this packaging. Let's try this. So the actual human tangible part of it is tested. And then messaging, right? So now we will test messaging and try to figure out what's getting the best result, which for the longest time, we only had feedback that we would get from our members because, we pride ourselves on being a ghost in the process. So nobody, when they receive these, knows that Client Giant had any part in it, which to our bit of detriment, we did not have a feedback loop. We didn't know from the recipient digitally how they were enjoying it. We only knew because our members would send us screenshots of texts and referrals, and they'd, hit up our customer service and say, hey, you've doubled my business in the last year. And we'd get all that, but it was only if they volunteered it. And now we've introduced a whole bunch of tech where there is a feedback opportunity. There is a QR code that's going to come with, on a card that allows somebody to say thank you if they want to, dive in deeper to whatever information the sender is sending them. And that, for us, gives me another data point to work on to say, okay, hey, this one hit at this percentage, this one hit at this percentage. But it's beyond that in terms of how we constantly iterate. We get so far as to say, for example, birthday, how much response do we get? And how strong is the impact on people when this comes 5 days ahead of their birthday? What about 4 days? What about 3 days? What about 2 days? What about 10 days? Right? So every element of anything that goes to someone's doorstep, the efficacy is being measured. And then we learn as humans to change gifts, change touches. And our gifting engine, the tech learns based on responses now. So we're constantly making it better. And just for the benefit of, having the best impact for our members.
And that's the real benefit is that impact. And so I love that because, just even thinking about trying to do that, what do I send, when, and the consistency, I've already said that. But you're taking it beyond and doing experiences, you said as well. So it's more than just gifts.
Yeah. So, and what you just said is actually very, very common. Like the reasons, like the initial reasons, I always tell people we exist for two reasons. One is obvious. It's everything I've been talking about. Make you look like $1 million, make your clients wildly happy and loyal, and make them referral machines, make your employees happy and stay, etc. And number two, that is not the reason why anybody calls us, right? But it ends up being, to me, or probably to you, one of the most important things, just make life easy. Right? Like you said, I don't have to think about what do I send? What should I get for this person? When should I send it? What's the card say? What's the messaging? How did I make sure that everybody got one? How do I keep up? Everything that we do, you set it and forget it. Of course, you can make changes, but almost nobody does because they see the results, right? So yeah, it goes well beyond gifts. So, and it has for a long time, and it's getting even more and more there. So like the example that I used with Jay early on in his career before Client Giant existed. If you guys bought a house with him, a month later, you get a call from that, maitre d' and he sends you dinner. Well, we still do that in our real estate side of our business. Yeah. In our real estate side of our business, there's two high levels of transaction packages when someone's buying or selling a home where, several weeks later, they get a call from a concierge would say, hey, I'm a personal concierge working on behalf of Jeff Maines. You've been in your house for a month now. He'd love to send you and your wife, you and your husband, you and whomever to dinner anywhere you'd like to go in the area, with round trip transportation included. Is there anywhere you've always wanted to try? And of course, the concierge is our concierge, but we're working on behalf of the member.
Wow.
Same thing with, in-home cleanings and services and spa days and arranging for people to go see a concert. So there's experiences. And this part's really exciting because it's really the future of where we're heading. And I'm sure we'll get there in the conversation. But historically with client experience, we've never done anything to intake information about a client. So interest data, personal information. All we know is what our member sort of tells us about the client to take care of them. So he or she may say, this person loves some sports team, right? Or they're buying a home, let's say on our real estate side, because that's where we started. They would say, they're buying a home with a pool for the first time, never had a pool before, right? And we can utilize that because the whole idea is to make people very excited. Right. They've got these kids and here are their names. And we end up getting, again, from our member, they get, a mains pool sign, a big wood sign that said the mains pool, right? And then a personalized pool towel for each one with their names on it, right? Which is amazing. It makes, people, but we only know that information historically because the member told us that, or we have a spy team. They're not technically called the spy team. They're called the recipient research team. That's right. And they go in to find social media, any publicly available record to find out information about folks that we're going to be taking care of if our member tells us nothing. But what's really exciting in terms of these experiences is as we've added focus or shifted focus into employee happiness, the employee relationship is one where we can intake information.
Oh, absolutely.
An employee or our member as an employer is happy to have their employees answer some questions,
sure,
right? That are fun and interesting that we create so that we can learn, right? Your favorite sports team, that you're absolutely obsessed with hockey and this is your team, or that this is your favorite band that you would, if you could see any band live, before you die, what would it be? Your bucket list band. And then, of course, we're building out a data layer to know those things so that a few years from now, I can have a massive company with tens of thousands of employees, and I can know that 7 people who are on the executive tier care plan in the San Francisco office of your company, their bucket list concert is Coldplay, and Coldplay is coming to San Francisco in 2.5 months, and we arrange tickets.
Wow.
Right? And that's all done with the data layer. And to them, they may not even remember that they answered a question about their bucket list concert 2.5 years ago.
They probably don't.
Right? They probably think, yeah, well,
how did you know?
All my coworkers. Yeah, they probably think all my coworkers know that I love the band. They hear me listen to it. And so, yeah, I mean, I say sometimes that I feel like we're manufacturing serendipity.
That's really cool. So how do you do that from a technology standpoint? What have been the challenges to bring that to market in something? Because you have fulfillment, you have all these gift ideas, you've got the network. There are a lot of moving pieces. What have been the challenges to create that? And especially in something that, you didn't really just have something to copy. Yeah.
It's sort of an analogy for all entrepreneurship, right? Isn't it? So it's funny because this was like my fifth entrepreneurial venture, 4th in tech. And Jay had never done this before. So I got to kind of like, as a best friend, I got to like walk him through this thing. And my analogy is always like, how if you're doing something or going somewhere for the first time, you probably want a map, And I said, well, okay, so what we're going to be doing here, not only do we not have a map, we barely have a compass, and we're not even entirely sure where the hopeful destination is, right? So and I always say, there is no path, so grab a machete and let's figure it out on the way, right? So yeah, definitely no blueprint. I mean, we see what some folks that I think would call themselves like a gifting company, because, in the beginning, I think we sort of considered ourselves that and really quickly expanded to experiences and now all engagement. But the challenges in terms of the tech are that we have multiple platforms technically, right? So what we're doing is so unique that we didn't even really feel comfortable building on top of other platforms in terms of, let's say, fulfillment. We use Stripe, right, in terms of the payment portal to run all those. But even the way that plans renew and the way that people take care of different people, or the way that plans may renew on a renewal of a client, let's say. So some of our members, corporate members, they are taking care of clients who have annual renewals or biannual renewals. And of course, we're keeping track of those important dates, right? Because those may spark touches to go out to people. So we built the system. So we have the system that everybody sees, right? So we have our front end website. If you just go look at clientgiant.com, you see like the marketing site. And then once you're a member, you're in app.clientgiant.com, which is the member app that allows you to essentially think of it as like the world's first active CRM. You're seeing all of your recipients. You can place them on plans. You see what plans they're on. You see all the touches that have gone out to them. You see as they're going. You see your tracking. You can see it travel across the United States, right? You can, add whatever you want. Somebody has a baby, or they get married, or unfortunately lose a loved one, or they're sick. You can push a button, things go out to them. All that takes place in the app, right? For those folks. And then third, we have our administrative platform, which is we built entirely ourselves, which is exactly what you're talking about in terms of the touches that go out. Fulfillment, probably 50% of fulfillment is out of our own office, out of our own warehouse.
Wow.
Right. So so the third app or the second app, the admin app, creates, well, I know that, let's say Jeff Maines has this person on an employee care plan, and the employee care plan knows that person's birthday. They know their hire date, so they know their work anniversary. We're going to take care of them on all these moments that matter. Well, the system knows when that moment is coming up for Cindy, right? That moment's coming up. That system now has to, hit our fulfillment warehouse, right? Our fulfillment center, and say, okay, what are we getting for Cindy? Let's say it's a custom tailored gift. Then instead it hits our custom tailored gifting team 2 months ahead. So they start planning a custom tailored gift. They put that all together. They mark the system. When that thing is ready to go out, it goes back into our fulfillment center. Fulfillment center, says, okay, it's 8 days before Cindy's work anniversary. That's got to ship out on day 4 because she is in Tennessee and the estimated time is 2 to 3 days, so that it hits right at that time. So all of that is proprietary. All of that is what we built. And then the gnarliest part of it is the actual gifting engine, which is using the data to come up with what we're sending. And also, this is a problem that nobody would think of, but we have to think of it. Let's say, for example, you've got Cindy on this plan, and our team comes up with an amazing set of personalized coasters for her for something. And she gets them. Well, now let's say it's 3 years from now, and you go in the system and Cindy just did something awesome for the company, right? And you go through and you say, I want to get her a congratulatory whatever. And you select, because you can still select some things, one off. You try to select coasters. The gifting engine knows that Cindy already received something similar from you 3.5 years ago, and will not allow you to do that, right? Again, like I said, a problem that nobody is going to think of, but
until it happens,
to solve 3.5 years.
Somebody gets that special thing twice.
Exactly. So we have to think ahead by 3 years, which, by the way, this is so commonplace to me that I don't even think to kind of mention it as kind of a main staple in what we do. It makes us really unique. You don't select the gifts. I honestly don't think there's anything else out there that I could even draw a parallel to. You place somebody on a plan, you see what's going out to them. We tell you ahead of time. We say, hey, Jeff, this is going to go out to Cindy in 2 weeks, unless you say otherwise, unless you want to make a change. Nobody does. It's less than 5%.
Right.
It's technically, you're essentially, you've signed up for a service. It's a tech-enabled service, and there's physical goods that are part of what's going to be, in the experience. But you're not selecting any gifts. You're not buying gifts for anybody. You're just getting a service and placing them on that plan, and we take care of everything from that.
So did you start doing the fulfillment yourself, or did you outsource that in the beginning and then bring it in-house, or how did that transition happen?
Oh, man. I could send you photos and videos of myself and Jay inside of like a, 400 square foot office fulfilling others. Actually, before that, I could send you in our respective houses. I was already married and had a kid, so it didn't infiltrate my house as much. But Jay's entire living room in the beginning was filled with all
to the warehouse.
things, right? That we're sending out. And then it's like, okay, hey, it's time to get an office. And then we got the office, and it was, I want to say, Jeff, in 5 years, I think we've moved 5. I think we've had 5 different offices or 6 different offices. And as I speak right now, I just saw them walk by. Our commercial real estate folks are here talking to us about where we're going next. So we just bit this off and we were, I don't remember how long we were fulfilling out of our own space, like ourselves, Jay and I literally doing it before we operated for almost a year before we had our first official employee. And to this day, we've bootstrapped the whole thing. It's entirely self-financed between him and myself.
I love that. I love bootstrap companies. And that's the kind of thing that you do as a bootstrap company is you get in there and you figure it out. You create that map. You're not looking for somebody else to do it or find an easy path, but you're actually creating it. And because of that, you build a product that's much better in a lot of cases, I think, because you've experienced it. You know what the challenges are. You know the problems that you need to solve because you lived it.
Absolutely. And I think also, Jay and I talk about this a lot because granted, it's been a few years since we were the only ones, doing this. And honestly, if I said I was anticipating, or either one of us were anticipating the growth and the success that we had, year one, year two, I'd be lying. So one of the biggest benefits, I think, is that we have played almost every position at one point. So not only do you know how that feels, but in terms of the relationship with your team, your employees.
Sure.
At one point, Jay and I were customer service. We were fulfilling. I don't code, so I wasn't actually coding those things, but I guess I'm still helping to, Jay and I both still helping to build all the software and where we go next. But I think there's a level of empathy that a founder always has, and that employees can feel, when you have played those positions, when you've done those roles, you've done those things that your employees continue to do, 4 or 5 years later. That really helps.
Yeah, that's really good. So what would you go back and tell yourself at the beginning, that you know now that you didn't know then? What do you wish you knew at the beginning?
You know what? I wouldn't change anything. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't change anything just because I don't know that I really believe in that. But I think there's times where we probably could have moved faster. So it's a Jay and I have, like I said, yin and yang. We have a thing where I call him Ready, Fire, Aim. That's my nickname for him. And which is funny because when I was very, very early, I was just talking about this with somebody who was like, I used to be the young guy. I used to be like the shoot and go. And, everybody that were my employees, in my early tech days were all older than me. And I was just this wild, what the heck is he going to do? And now in our relationship, I end up playing the role of, well, all right, let's do some research here. Let's, but for example, a challenge and I think a curse is what we do, both for clients and for employees, is industry agnostic. And it is company size agnostic. The challenges with people's clients and the challenges with their employees exist inside of, with a solopreneur, right? With an individual real estate agent or a financial planner or an insurance, sales, which are our top 3 solopreneur members, right? They're in, real estate, financial planning, insurance, etc. They're the same as huge corporation with big clients that are paying them millions and millions of dollars a year.
Right.
It's just at a different scale and the relationships are slightly different. But obviously that's daunting to say, well, literally, I believe every company needs to start focusing on this. So I think if I could change something, it would have been not sitting back at any point and being so happy with the fact that we were, growing 5x a year in real estate specifically or in financial, sector specifically, and start to more quickly, help other companies and other business owners and operators that were outside of that and at higher scales. Now we are. But, if I could go back, I think 2 years, not to the very beginning, 2 years, I would have fast tracked employee happiness probably at a larger scale for larger organizations. It's so needed right now. Especially two things are compiling at a perfect storm for why this is so needed and why we feel so good about helping these companies is, for one, pandemic came, everybody moved remote, not everybody. And we know people are getting pulled back in now. But, the relationships, which is what we focus on when we talk about employee happiness and we're helping people with employee happiness, which is a big main focus for us right now. There's a lot of things that go into what makes an employee happy or satisfied in their role. And some of those things we can't help you with. I can't help you with how to do salaries. I can't help you with how to do, professional development to a degree.
Sure.
We can give you tools, but the relationship stuff, we know that, right? I can help you with making them feel. We have a thing we just trademarked, which I love. We work with so many folks in human resources. And what we trademarked is helping you treat people more like humans and less like resources.
Wow.
Right? I can help you with that. Right? We can help you with that part.
I like that.
And that's when you think about the relationships and what's gone on the last few years, those were deepened in boardrooms and break rooms. And a lot of companies don't have those anymore.
Right.
It's just like this. We're just on a camera. And I'm removed from my own employees, my own teammates. And so it's more necessary than ever to start doing things to make people feel how much you actually care about them as a human, not just as a producer, right? Not just as the role that they have in producing for the company. And then second reason is the demographic. The folks that are in their 20s, 30s, even early 40s. Apparently, I'm a Zennial. I don't know. There's like 3 years of us, but it's proven, data proven, right? Like millennials, Gen Z, like this group of people care more about how they're treated and those relationship elements than they do about an actual dollar. It actually goes further with them to know that they're cared about and that somebody is, thinking of them than an extra few $100 or whatever it is. So those two things together, it's just sort of a perfect storm for why I think, whether it's with us or whether it's with somebody else, I think every company right now has to be paying serious attention to doing this the right way.
I think you're right on there. I love the employee aspect of that. And you're right. They stay because of how they feel about the company. They feel connected. They feel appreciated. And, a few extra dollars in the paycheck, that doesn't hurt, but it doesn't have the same emotional connection as something like this. And
so I will not get soapboxy on this, I promise, but we've done a lot of research and this won't surprise you. When people kind of like hear this and think about it, they go, oh yeah, it's very much like a transaction in any business, but I'll use real estate as an example. If you buy a house right now and your real estate agent, as we know sometimes happens, to make the deal work, they end up giving back $5,000 in their commission or whatever it is from each side because they make the deal work. Or let's say it's in any business transaction where they end up cutting the price by, 5% because they want to get this thing done. If you go back and you ask the person on that receiving end to talk about, name 10 things that were great about this experience of working with the person or that they did for you, they will not name that.
You're right.
They will not name because it's part of the transaction. It was something to get the deal done. And what we've learned is compensation. Here's this bonus or here's this whatever. That is not going to be something if you ask them, why do you love this company? Why are you loyal to this company? What's keeping you here? What makes you feel good about your job? They will never mention that because it's transactional. It's part of the deal for me to be here, right? So yeah, I mean, your point's spot on is that they're not even going to view it in the same vein as, the stuff that we do to help you with employee happiness and care.
I think that was my biggest takeaway, and just in our whole conversation was just moving that from transactional and even the things that we thought were relationship that were transactional. So, we did a dealer renewal or we got a referral, and so we sent something that's very transactional. And so that just really changed my thinking of we really want to build the relationship, and that happens not because you did something, but because of who you are in the relationship and that true appreciation. And that's where that emotional 100%. Connection happens.
You're spot on. I couldn't say it better myself.
Well, where can people learn more? I'm in. Where can people learn more about you and about Client Giant?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are at clientgiant.com, www.clientgiant.com. You can see everything there. We haven't talked to you too much about Happier People, but you're also going to be able to very soon see a whole bunch of stuff at Happier People. You want me to tell you about that real fast?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So the whole element I was talking to you about with the fact that I'm really excited about this. So now I got to get this in. That we now with employees feel comfortable in having them answer questions and learning a little bit about them and actually having a digital interaction between the employer and the employee, and maybe soon even from employee to employee for a community building.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So we're solving so many cool problems with this. I can't even tell you. So we're always supposed to be a go. So we don't want people to know that that's Client Giant. So Happier People is the site that, the experience that the people actually go through. They get an email from happierpeople.com. They're asked a few questions when they join the organization or when they're in the organization. We learn little bits about them. It might be, like I said, the concert that they would want to see. It could be that they wear a size 10 shoe, right? And we have some reasons to know why that's happening. We may use these things for gifting along the way, or you may use it as the employer to do something internally. And that Happier People experience is a whole solely software experience that is engaging employees in, of course, in some ways helping us with gifting, but it's going to kind of be an entire ecosystem all in itself to continue to support people's interests, support people's passions, and really, I think, solve the problem of you've got a couple of hundred people in your organization. You're never going to know if Susie in accounting, got a new puppy.
Right.
right? So even if you want to honor that and get her, a dog bowl or something like that, or you couldn't do it because you're never going to know that. I think a lot of the people that we work with that genuinely care about their people and want to do that, that's one problem they can't even solve if they want to. And with happier people, we're going to be solving stuff like that and a whole lot more.
That's awesome. So clientgiant.com and happierpeople.com.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a great conversation. Thank you for being on the show, Jeff.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and wisdom. There are a few companies out there that are doing something kind of similar. And I looked at a number of these for my team and clients over the last year or so. And I was just blown away at the insights and links that Client Giant goes to versus the other guys, and signed up for it myself. You can learn more about Jeff and Client Giant at clientgiant.com. And like I said, after meeting Jeff, our conversation, I did sign up with them first class all the way. My biggest takeaway of our conversation was that stuff with your logo on it, it's not a gift. And I've been dealing with this whole thing and getting it wrong for years. When we said that, my brain just melted. And it's so true. I have a ton of stuff that people send me with their logos on it. Some of it's okay. Some of it's just not that great. But a friend has never sent me a gift with their name or their face on it. I never had somebody give me a bowling ball that said Homer. It's a Simpsons reference if you haven't seen that episode. But I did get a pair of socks with my face on them one time, but that's a different story. Drop me a note if you want to see that on a future episode. Maybe I'll show them to you. But Jeff really changed the way that I think about client delight and employee appreciation. And, that's one of the ways that we grow is we think one way and someone gives us kind of a different perspective. We process it, sometimes change or expand our views. And I love that. Now, as always, all links, highlights, resources, full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And check us out on YouTube also. New channel, tons of content and adding more all the time. Past episodes, new episodes, shorts, outtakes, guitars, sharks, diving, and more. I'll put some lava tube stuff up there for you. But please subscribe or follow us there. And everyone who subscribes this week gets a deluxe pat on the back kit, including a telescoping hand with customizable sound clip that says, "Good job," in various tones. I'd say that Client Giant is probably better at appreciation than that. Well, join us next time on our SaaS Fuel Expert series for sales legend Craig T. Ingram. Craig T., sales strategy and go-to-market expertise in the medtech, health tech. His specialty is product launch and market expansion so the growth continues on an upward trajectory. Super, super good. And next week, our 100th episode, Tuesday and Thursday, it's going to be epic. Multiple guests, in-person interviews, favorite return guests. They'll share their top insight. And we got a few surprises in there for you as well. Share the podcast, invite a friend, and mahalo. Till next time. Enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.